Hi, I'm May from the province here in the Philippines. Today's topic is one that bothers a lot of foreign men more than they admit. Four silent signs someone is sizing up your finances before you've even said hello. Here's the brutal truth. Financial assessment happens constantly in early dating, everywhere in the world, in every culture. People read clothing, grooming, posture, and small behavioral cues to make snap judgments about stability long before any conversation about money ever happens directly. That's not unique to any one country. That's universal human behavior, and pretending it doesn't happen doesn't protect you from it. If you think this kind of silent financial reading only happens to wealthy men, or only happens here, you're missing something important. This happens everywhere, to everyone, constantly. The real question isn't whether you're being read this way. It's whether what's being read about you is actually accurate. So here's my promise today. I'm going to walk you through four specific things people notice that shape their financial impression of you, long before money ever comes up directly, so you understand exactly what's being communicated and whether it's working for you or against you. Stay with me, because the last point on this list reframes the entire conversation about money and first impressions. Let's clear up a fantasy a lot of men carry into these situations. They assume financial judgment only happens once actual numbers get discussed, once someone asks a direct question or sees a receipt. That assumption is comfortable. It's also incomplete, because most financial impressions form long before any number is ever mentioned. Here's what's actually happening underneath. Humans are pattern recognition machines, and financial stability leaves behavioral fingerprints that have nothing to do with actual wealth. A person can have very little money and still read as stable and secure. A person can have considerable money and read as anxious or erratic. The reading isn't really about your bank balance. It's about whether your behavior signals calm control or visible anxiety around resources. And here's the part that matters. If you've ever felt subtly judged in a way you couldn't quite pin down, that feeling is real, and it's worth understanding rather than dismissing. The judgment isn't necessarily unfair. It's just based on signals you may not realize you're sending. That awareness, that willingness to actually examine what you're communicating, is exactly what separates men who control this impression from men who leave it to chance. If you want the actual framework for understanding and shaping how you're read in these early moments, grab my guide, The Philippine Dating Antidote. Links in the description. Now, let's get into exactly what's being read in those silent first seconds. Think about walking into a bank to apply for a loan. The loan officer doesn't just look at your application. They notice how you carry yourself, whether you seem anxious or composed, whether you fidget with your paperwork or hold it steady. None of that is on the application, but all of it shapes the impression before a single number gets reviewed. A first encounter works the same way. Someone is reading your composure, your behavioral signals, the same way that loan officer reads body language before ever seeing your actual financial documents. The numbers come later, if they come at all. The impression forms immediately, based on signals that have nothing directly to do with your actual bank balance. Keep that image in your head for the rest of this list. You're not being judged on your wealth. You're being judged on your composure. Here are the four silent signs that shape someone's financial impression of you. 1. How you handle small, everyday transactions reveals more than you'd expect. Counting change calmly versus fumbling anxiously. Tipping with quiet confidence versus visible hesitation, or, on the other extreme, exaggerated showiness. These small moments get noticed. Calm, unremarkable competence with money reads as stability. Either anxious fumbling or attention-seeking displays read as something else entirely, just in different directions. 2. The condition and care of your belongings communicates more than their price tag. A modest but well-maintained watch, clean and properly fitted clothing, an organized bag or wallet. These signal someone who manages what he has responsibly. Worn, neglected items aren't actually the problem. Items that look neglected because you've stopped caring, regardless of their original cost, send a signal of low self-investment that gets noticed immediately. 3. How you talk about practical topics, even briefly, reveals your relationship with money. A man who can discuss a meal cost, a taxi fare, or a simple expense matter-of-factly, without visible discomfort or overcompensating bravado, reads as someone secure in his financial reality. A man who either avoids the topic anxiously or makes a point of mentioning costs to impress reads as someone whose relationship with money is more complicated than he's letting on. 4. Your reaction to an unexpected or inconvenient expense tells the real story. A delayed flight, a higher than expected bill, a small unplanned cost. React with calm acceptance and you signal genuine stability. React with visible irritation, anxiety, or an urge to over-explain your financial situation unprompted, and you signal something underneath that composure that wasn't actually there. Now, here's where I have to be honest with you. Understanding these 4 signals intellectually is one thing. Actually managing your own composure around money consistently, especially when you're nervous about making a good impression, is a different skill entirely. Most men don't realize how much their own financial anxiety leaks out in these small, unconscious moments until someone points it out directly. That's exactly why I built the Philippine Dating Antidote around this specific dynamic. Not just a list of signals to recognize in others, but an actual framework for managing your own composure, so the impression you're creating matches the reality of who you actually are. Why leave this to chance when an entire system for managing it already exists? Grab it in the pinned comment and stop letting unconscious anxiety shape an impression you didn't actually intend to send. Here's the deeper point underneath all 4 of these signals, and it's the one that actually matters most. This entire conversation was never really about money at all. It was about composure. The specific signals people read aren't actually measuring your wealth. They're measuring your relationship with whatever resources you do have, whether you handle them with calm confidence or visible anxiety. A modest income managed with quiet composure reads as far more stable than a large income managed with visible nervousness or showiness. The goal was never to seem wealthier than you are. The goal is to actually be calm and secure in your real financial reality, whatever that reality happens to be, because that calm is what actually reads as trustworthy. Performance gets noticed eventually. Genuine composure doesn't need to perform anything at all. Now breathe. None of this means you need to obsess over every small transaction or perform calm so deliberately that it becomes its own kind of anxiety. A man in his 60s who's made peace with his own financial reality, whatever that reality is, carries a kind of quiet security that's almost impossible to fake and genuinely difficult to overlook. You don't need more money to read as stable. You need genuine acceptance of what you actually have, expressed through ordinary, unremarkable competence rather than anxiety in either direction. That man, the one who's simply comfortable in his own financial skin, doesn't need to manage an impression at all. The calm just shows, naturally, in everything from how he counts his change to how he reacts when something costs more than expected. That's not a technique. That's just what genuine security actually looks like from the outside. So tell me, has anyone ever surprised you by being completely different from what their appearance suggested about their financial situation? I'd genuinely love to hear that story in the comments. This channel exists for one simple reason: to help good men understand the signals they're sending so those signals actually match who they really are. That's the whole mission. And if today's video helped you in any way, I'm not going to ask for anything big. Just toss a tip my way for a bucket of Jollibee chicken or a cold San Miguel after a long day of filming. Every bit keeps this channel running. Until next time, stay composed, stay genuine, and I'll see you in the next one.